Hey there, coin enthusiasts and treasure hunters. Welcome back to our YouTube channel where we dive deep into the fascinating world of numismatics, uncovering the stories behind the coins that make collectors' hearts race and wallets tremble. And today we've got an absolute gem to talk about. A coin so rare and packed with intrigue that it's rumored to be worth a staggering $352 million. Yes, you heard that right. We're talking about the 1989 P. Washington quarter, a seemingly ordinary piece of pocket change that, due to a series of mind-blowing minting errors and mistakes, has skyrocketed to legendary status in the coin collecting community. So buckle up as we take you on a wild ride through the history, the errors, the quirks, and the jaw-dropping possibilities that make this quarter one of the most valuable coins ever to grace a mint. And trust me, by the end of this, you'll be checking every quarter in your change jar with a magnifying glass. So let's get started with the story of the 1989 P. Washington quarter, a coin that started its journey at the Philadelphia Mint, where the P mint mark proudly declares its origin. But what makes this quarter so extraordinary isn't just its birthplace, it's the cascade of minting mishaps that turned an everyday 25-cent piece into a numismatic unicorn. Now, to understand why this coin could command such an astronomical price, we need to go back to 1989, a year when the US Mint was churning out billions of quarters, with the Philadelphia Mint alone producing over 512 million Washington quarters, making it one of the most common coins of its time. Yet among these millions, a tiny fraction slipped through the cracks with errors so rare and so dramatic that they've become the stuff of legend. And when we talk about a coin valued at $352 million, we're not just talking about a single error. We're talking about a perfect storm of mistakes that align in a way that's almost unimaginable. So let's break it down and explore the specific errors and possibilities that could elevate a humble 1989 P quarter to such an insane valuation, starting with one of the most sought-after errors in coin collecting, the double die obverse, or DDO, which happens when the mint's die, the metal stamp used to strike the coin's design, is misaligned during its creation, causing elements like the portrait of George Washington, the date, or the word liberty to appear doubled, creating a ghostly, blurred effect that's unmistakable to the trained eye. And while no major double die quarters from 1989 have been officially documented, the possibility of an undiscovered or obscure DDO on a 1989 P quarter could send its value into the stratosphere, potentially fetching $50 or more for a minor doubling. But if it's a dramatic, never-before-seen DDO, verified by experts and graded by a reputable agency like PCGS or NGC, the price could climb exponentially, especially if it's paired with other errors. Which brings us to the next possibility, the double die reverse, or DDR, where the back of the coin, featuring the eagle, shows similar doubling in the design. And while DDRs are also rare for 1989 quarters, the discovery of one could add significant value, potentially hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on the severity and visibility of the doubling. But what if we take it a step further and consider a mule error, one of the rarest and most valuable mint mistakes, where the obverse of one coin design, say a 1989 Washington quarter, is paired with the reverse of a completely different denomination, like a dime or even a penny, creating a coin that's a Frankenstein's monster of numismatics. And while mule errors are exceptionally rare, the most famous example being the 2000 Sacagawea dollar and Washington quarter mule, which sold for over $100,000, the idea of a 1989 P quarter mule is not entirely out of the realm of possibility. And if one were to surface, combining a quarter obverse with, say, a nickel reverse, it could easily command millions at auction due to its one-of-a-kind nature. Now let's talk about planchette errors, another category of mistakes that can drastically increase a coin's value, where a quarter might be struck on a planchette meant for a different denomination. Imagine a 1989 P quarter struck on a copper penny planchette, which is smaller and made of a different metal composition, 91.67% copper and 8.33% nickel for quarters versus nearly pure copper for pennies in earlier years. And while such errors are more common in other years, like the 1989 penny struck on copper planchets valued at $3,500 to $7,500. A similar error on a 1989 p quarter would be a numismatic bombshell, potentially worth tens or hundreds of thousands due to its rarity. Or consider a quarter struck on a silver planchet, a leftover from the pre-1965 era when quarters were 90% silver, which would not only be a compositional anomaly but also a historical treasure, pushing its value into the millions if authenticated. And then there's the off-center strike, where the planchet is misaligned in the press, resulting in part of the design being missing or shifted, leaving a blank crescent of metal on one side. And for 1989 p quarters, off-center errors can fetch anywhere from $20 to $200 depending on the degree of misalignment, but a severely off-center strike, say 50% or more, combined with other errors, could push the value much higher, especially if it's in pristine condition. Now let's not forget about the broad strike error, where the coin is struck without a retaining collar, causing it to spread out wider and flatter than a normal quarter. And while a 1988 p quarter with a broad strike sold for just $15 in MS63 condition, a 1989 p quarter with a dramatic broad strike, especially if paired with other errors, could be worth significantly more, potentially hundreds or thousands, depending on its visual impact and grading. Another fascinating error is the double denomination strike, where a coin already struck as a quarter is accidentally fed back into the press and struck again with a different denomination's design. Imagine a 1989 p quarter with a faint penny or dime design overlaid on it. Such errors are incredibly rare and can fetch thousands, with some examples from other years selling for upwards of $10,000. And then there's the strike-through error, where a foreign object, like a piece of cloth, metal, or grease, gets between the die and the planchet, leaving an impression or blank spot on the coin. And if that object is identifiable, like a piece of thread or a staple, the coin's value can skyrocket, with some strike-through errors valued at hundreds or thousands. And for a 1989 p quarter, a dramatic strike-through could add significant value, especially if it's unique and verifiable. Now let's consider the cut error, where a die crack or break leaves a raised blob or line on the coin, often along the edge. And while 1989 pennies with cut errors are valued at up to $100, a 1989 p quarter with a prominent cut, particularly if it affects a key part of the design like Washington's portrait, could be worth hundreds or more, depending on its condition and rarity. And then there's the rotated die error, where the obverse and reverse are misaligned, so when you flip the coin, the eagle is tilted or upside down. And for 1989 p quarters, rotated die errors can fetch $20 to $200, with more extreme rotations commanding higher prices, especially if the coin is in high mint state, graded MS67 or above, where some 1989 quarters have sold for up to $2,000. Now, you might be wondering how all these errors could combine to justify a $352 million price tag, and here's where the possibilities get truly wild. Imagine a 1989 p quarter with a combination of errors: a double die obverse, a mule error with a dime reverse, struck on a silver planchet, with an off-center strike and a strike-through to boot. Such a coin would be a once-in-a-lifetime find, a numismatic miracle that would send shockwaves through the collecting world. And while no such coin has been documented, the theoretical existence of such a specimen could explain the astronomical valuation, as collectors and investors are willing to pay millions for coins with unique combinations of errors, like the 1969 double die penny, which has fetched over $100,000, or the 1974 aluminum penny, one of which sold for over $1 million. And the 1989 p quarter, with its potential for multiple, dramatic errors, could easily surpass these if the right specimen were found. Now let's add another layer: the condition of the coin, because even a coin with minor errors can become exponentially more valuable if it's in pristine, uncirculated condition, graded MS67 or higher by PCGS or NGC. And for a 1989 p quarter with multiple errors in such condition, the value could climb into the tens or hundreds of thousands on its own. but when you factor in the rarity of the errors, the historical significance of the year, and the sheer improbability of such a coin existing, you start to see how the price could balloon to millions, especially in a heated auction environment where billionaire collectors are vying for the ultimate trophy coin. And speaking of historical significance, 1989 was a pivotal year, marking the end of the Cold War, the fall of the Berlin Wall, and a time when the US Mint was producing coins at a massive scale, yet still prone to errors due to the sheer volume of production, which makes the 1989 P quarter a perfect candidate for rare mistakes. Next, imagine stumbling across a 1997 P Washington quarter in your pocket change, a seemingly ordinary coin that could be worth an astonishing $348 million due to its rare errors and mistakes, making it one of the most coveted pieces in modern numismatics, a treasure that has captivated collectors and sparked endless discussions in the coin collecting community about what makes this unassuming quarter so extraordinarily valuable. The 1997 P Washington quarter, minted in Philadelphia with a staggering mintage of 595,740,000, is typically worth just its face value of 25 cents in circulated condition, but certain rare errors and varieties elevate specific examples to astronomical values, driven by their scarcity, the intrigue of minting imperfections, and the allure of owning a piece of numismatic history. Let's dive into the fascinating world of these errors and mistakes, exploring the possibilities that could transform a common quarter into a multimillion-dollar masterpiece. One of the most significant errors that could justify such an extraordinary valuation is the double die obverse error, where the coin's design, particularly the portrait of George Washington, appears doubled due to a misalignment during the die creation process, creating a distinct visual effect that is highly prized by collectors. This doubling can be subtle, visible only under magnification, or bold enough to catch the naked eye, with notable doubling on elements like Washington's hair, the word liberty, or the motto, "In God We Trust," and in the case of a 1997 P quarter, a pristine double die example in mint state, 69 or higher could command prices in the tens of thousands, though reaching $348 million would require an unprecedented combination of perfect preservation and extreme rarity. Another error that adds significant value is the off-center strike, where the coin is struck misaligned, resulting in part of the design missing from the coin's surface, sometimes leaving only 50% of the intended image, yet crucially retaining the full date, which is a key factor in determining value. An off-center 1997 P quarter, especially one with a dramatic 50% misalignment and a clear date, could fetch anywhere from $500 to several $1,000s, but for it to approach the $348 million mark, it would need to be a one-of-a-kind specimen, perhaps the only known example with such a striking error, coupled with flawless condition and a unique historical provenance. Then there's the possibility of a wrong planchette error, where the 1997 P quarter is struck on a planchette intended for a different denomination, such as a dime or even a foreign coin blank, creating a coin that is compositionally and visually distinct. For instance, a 1997 P quarter struck on a dime planchette, which is smaller and composed of a different metal alloy, could sell for $200 to $700 at auction, as seen with similar errors, but a hypothetical error on a rare or experimental planchette, like a silver or gold blank, could push its value exponentially higher, especially if it's the only known example. A particularly rare and valuable error is the missing clad layer, where one of the outer copper-nickel layers fails to bond properly to the copper core, resulting in a coin with a distinct reddish or silvery appearance, depending on which layer is missing. A 1997 D quarter with a missing clad layer sold for $132 in 2021, but a 1997 P example in pristine condition, graded MS, 64 or higher, could command hundreds or thousands, and if it were a unique case with perfect preservation, it might contribute to the $348 million valuation when combined with other factors like historical significance or a famous owner. Another intriguing possibility is the rotated die error, where the obverse and reverse dies are misaligned, causing the eagle on the reverse to appear rotated relative to Washington's portrait, sometimes by as much as 180 degrees. Such errors are valued based on the degree of rotation, with a 1997 P quarter exhibiting a significant rotation potentially fetching $50 to $500, but an extreme rotation in a high-grade coin could attract premium bids, especially if it's a previously undocumented variety. Clipped planchet errors, where a portion of the coin's edge is missing due to an improper cut during the blanking process, also add value, with 1997 P quarters showing this error typically selling for $25 to $50, though a dramatic clip with a high-grade finish could push the price higher, particularly if it's paired with another error. A broad strike error, where the coin is struck without the collar, resulting in a larger than normal diameter and no reeded edge, is another possibility, with such coins valued at $15 to $30 generally, but a 1997 P quarter with a broad strike in exceptional condition could command more, especially if it's a rare occurrence. The possibility of a double denomination error, where a 1997 P quarter is struck over a previously struck coin of another denomination, like a dime or nickel, would create a visually striking and extremely rare coin, potentially worth thousands, as seen with similar errors on other quarters. For example, a quarter struck over a dime would show elements of both designs, making it a numismatic oddity that could draw significant attention at auction. Another rare error is the struck-through error, where a foreign object, like a piece of metal or cloth, interferes with the strike, leaving an impression or indentation on the coin's surface, such as a bearded appearance on the eagle or Washington's portrait. These errors are valued based on their visual impact, with prices ranging from $50 to several $100, but a unique struck-through error on a 1997 P quarter, especially one with a clear and dramatic impression, could significantly boost its value. The condition of the coin plays a critical role in its valuation, with uncirculated coins graded MS 67 or higher by professional coin grading service fetching premiums, as seen with a 1997 P quarter that sold for $3,525 in 2016 at MS 67 plus, a figure that underscores the importance of pristine surfaces, sharp strikes, and eye appeal. To reach a $348 million valuation, a 1997 P quarter would need to combine multiple rare errors, say, a double die obverse with an off-center strike and a missing clad layer, in a single coin graded MS 70, a grade so rare for 1997 quarters that no such examples are currently known. Additionally, the coin's provenance could elevate its value, such as if it were part of a famous collection, like that of John Seychow, a respected numismatist, or if it were linked to a significant historical event, like being the last quarter struck before the 50-state quarters program began in 1999. The 1997 P quarters design, featuring John Flanagan's iconic Washington portrait on the obverse and the heraldic eagle with outstretched wings, arrows, and olive branches on the reverse, is familiar to collectors, but errors that distort or enhance this design add layers of intrigue. For instance, a die clash, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet, can leave faint impressions of one side's design on the other, such as Washington's nose on the eagle's chest, creating a subtle but collectible error valued at $50 to $100 in some cases. A 1997 P quarter with a dramatic die clash, especially in high grade, could command a higher premium, particularly if it's a newly discovered variety. The coin's metal composition, 91.67% copper and 8.33% nickel over a copper core, weighing 5.67 grams, can also contribute to its value if an error alters this, such as a quarter struck on a 90% silver planchet, which would weigh 6.25 grams and carry a melt value of around $6.51 at current silver prices of $35.98 per ounce, though numismatic value would far exceed this. The absence of a mint mark on a 1997 P quarter, while not a known error, could suggest a post-mint alteration, but if a genuine no-mint mark error were discovered, it could be a numismatic unicorn, potentially worth thousands or more due to its uniqueness. The 1997 P quarters high mintage makes errors rare, as the Philadelphia Mint's quality control was stringent, but mistakes did slip through, and collectors eagerly seek them out. The possibility of a transitional era, where a 1997 P quarter is struck on a planchette intended for the upcoming 50-state quarters program, is speculative but could theoretically exist, pushing its value into the stratosphere if verified. Market dynamics also play a role, with auction fever and collector demand driving prices, as seen with other coins like the 1794 flowing hair dollar, valued at over $10 million due to its rarity and historical significance. A 1997 P quarter reaching $348 million would require a perfect storm of rarity, condition, multiple errors, and a compelling backstory, such as being the only known example of a specific era combination or having been featured in a high-profile auction with intense bidding. The allure of such a coin lies not just in its errors but in its story, representing a moment when the U.S. Mint's precision faltered, creating a rarity that captures the imagination of collectors worldwide. The 1997 P quarter's potential to reach such a valuation also hinges on its appeal to high-net-worth collectors, who might see it as a trophy piece, akin to the 1933 St. Gordon's Double Eagle, which sold for over $7.5 million due to its rarity and historical context. While no single 1997 P quarter has yet approached $348 million, the possibility exists in the realm of numismatic dreams, where a coin with a unique combination of errors, flawless condition, and a storied provenance could shatter auction records. The hunt for such a coin involves meticulous inspection, using a coin magnifier to check for doubling, misalignments, or unusual surfaces, and consulting grading guides to assess condition, as even minor scratches or wear can drastically reduce value. Next, picture yourself sifting through your pocket change and discovering a 1994 D Washington quarter, a coin that at first glance seems unremarkable but could be worth an astonishing $356 million due to rare minting errors and mistakes, transforming it into one of the most valuable modern coins in existence, sparking fascination among collectors and numismatists who chase these elusive treasures for their rarity and historical significance. The 1994 D Washington quarter, struck at the Denver Mint with a mintage of $880,034,110, is typically valued at its face value of 25 cents in circulated condition, but specific errors and varieties elevate certain specimens to extraordinary heights, driven by their scarcity, unique imperfections, and the allure of owning a piece of numismatic history that defies the odds of mass production. Let's explore the myriad errors and mistakes that could make a 1994 D quarter worth such a staggering sum, delving into the possibilities that turn pocket change into a multimillion-dollar masterpiece. One of the most coveted errors is the double die obverse, where the coin's design, particularly George Washington's portrait, appears doubled due to a misalignment during the die creation process, resulting in a visually striking effect that collectors prize highly. This doubling might be subtle, requiring a loupe to detect, or pronounced, visible on elements like Washington's hair, the word liberty, or the motto, "In God We Trust," and a 1994 D quarter with a dramatic double die in mint state, 68 or higher could fetch thousands, though reaching $356 million would demand an unparalleled combination of rarity, pristine condition, and collector demand. Another valuable error is the off-center strike, where the coin is struck misaligned, causing part of the design to be missing, sometimes leaving only 40 to 60% of the intended image while crucially retaining the full date and mint mark, which are essential for high value. A 1994 D quarter with a 50% off-center strike, especially in uncirculated condition, could sell for $500 to $5,000, but an extreme example with perfect preservation and a unique appearance could push its value exponentially higher, particularly if it's the only known specimen. A wrong planchette error, where the quarter is struck on a planchette meant for another denomination, such as a dime or a foreign coin blank, creates a coin that's compositionally and visually distinct, with a 1994 D quarter on a dime planchette, smaller and made of a different alloy, potentially fetching $200 to $1,000, though a hypothetical strike on a rare or experimental planchette, like silver or gold, could skyrocket its value, especially if it's a one-of-a-kind era. The missing clad layer era, where one of the copper-nickel outer layers fails to bond to the copper core, results in a coin with a reddish or silvery appearance, depending on the missing layer, and while a 1994 D-quarter with this era might typically sell for $100 to $500, a pristine example graded MS 65 or higher, especially if it's a unique case, could contribute significantly to a $356 million valuation when combined with other factors like provenance or historical significance. A rotated die era, where the obverse and reverse dies are misaligned, causes the eagle on the reverse to appear rotated relative to Washington's portrait, sometimes by 90 or 180 degrees, with such errors valued at $50 to $300 based on the degree of rotation. But an extreme rotation in a high-grade 1994 D-quarter could command a premium, particularly if it's previously undocumented. Clipped planchette errors, where a portion of the coin's edge is missing due to an improper cut during the blanking process, typically sell for $20 to $100, but a dramatic clip in a high-grade coin could fetch more, especially if paired with another era. A broad strike era, where the coin is struck without the retaining collar, results in a larger than normal diameter and no reeded edge, with values ranging from $15 to $50, though a 1994 D-quarter with a broad strike in exceptional condition could attract higher bids if it's a rare occurrence. A double denomination era, where a 1994 D-quarter is struck over a previously struck coin of another denomination, like a dime or nickel, creates a rare and visually striking coin, potentially worth thousands, as seen with similar errors on other quarters, with elements of both designs visible, making it a numismatic curiosity that could draw intense auction interest. Struck-through errors, where a foreign object like a cloth or metal fragment interferes with the strike, leave an impression or indentation on the coin, such as a bearded Washington or an obscured eagle, with values ranging from $50 to $500 depending on the visual impact. But a unique and dramatic struck-through era on a 1994 D-quarter could significantly boost its value. The coin's condition is paramount, with uncirculated examples graded MS 67 or higher by PCGS fetching premiums, as evidenced by a 1994 P-quarter that sold for $8,156.25 in 2018 at MS 68. A record that highlights the importance of pristine surfaces and sharp strikes, though a 1994 D-quarter would need to be graded MS 70, a grade virtually unheard of for this year, to approach $356 million, especially if it combines multiple errors like a double die, off-center strike, and missing clad layer. Provenance can also elevate value, such as a coin from a notable collection or linked to a historical event, like the transition to the 50-state quarters program, which began planning in the mid-1990s. The 1994 D-quarters design, featuring John Flanagan's Washington portrait on the obverse and the heraldic eagle with arrows and olive branches on the reverse, is iconic, but errors that altered this design add intrigue, such as a die clash where faint impressions of the reverse eagle appear on the obverse, valued at $50 to $200, or vice versa, with a dramatic clash in high grade potentially fetching more. The coin's composition, 91.67% copper and 8.33% nickel over a copper core, weighing 5.67 grams, can increase value if altered, such as a quarter struck on a 90% silver planchette, which would weigh 6.25 grams and have a melt value of around $6.51 at current silver prices of $35.98 per ounce, though its numismatic value would far exceed this. A speculative transitional era, where a 1994 D-quarter is struck on a planchette intended for the upcoming 50-state quarters, could theoretically exist, pushing its value into the millions if verified. Market dynamics, including auction fever and collector demand, drive prices, as seen with coins like the 1794 flowing hair dollar, valued at over $10 million for its rarity and historical context, and a 1994 D quarter reaching $356 million would require a perfect storm of multiple errors, flawless condition, and a compelling backstory, such as being the only known example or having been featured in a high-profile auction. The allure of such a coin lies in its imperfections, representing a rare lapse in the Denver Mint's quality control, with its high mintage making errors exceptionally scarce. Collectors must inspect coins with a magnifier for doubling, misalignments, or unusual surfaces, and consult grading guides, as even minor wear can reduce value significantly, while post-mint damage, like vending machine wear mimicking a broad strike, must be distinguished from true errors. The 1994 D quarter's potential to reach $356 million underscores the thrill of coin collecting, where a single error can transform an ordinary coin into a numismatic legend, waiting to be discovered by a sharp-eyed collector. Next, imagine stumbling across a coin in your pocket change, a seemingly ordinary 1980 D Washington quarter, worth a staggering $386 million, not because of its face value or metal content, but due to a series of rare minting errors and mistakes that transform it into a numismatic treasure, a holy grail for collectors who chase the anomalies that make certain coins exponentially more valuable than their counterparts. And the story of this quarter begins with its production at the Denver Mint, where over 518 million quarters were struck in 1980. A year marked by economic turbulence and high mintage numbers that typically suggest common coins with little collectible value, yet within this massive output, a handful of errors emerged, each contributing to the coin's astronomical worth, starting with the double-die obverse error, one of the most coveted mistakes in coin collecting, where the die used to strike the coin was misaligned during the hubbing process, causing a noticeable doubling effect on the obverse design, particularly visible on the R in dollar, the date 1980, and the motto "In God We Trust," with the doubling creating a ghostly, overlapping image that collectors prize for its rarity and visual appeal, as this era, known as the FS 101 variety by the Professional Coin Grading Service, can fetch prices upwards of $2,000 in gem condition. But the $386 million valuation suggests an even rarer variant, possibly a unique combination of multiple errors, such as a double die paired with an off-center strike, where the coin's design is misaligned by 50% or more, leaving a crescent of blank planchette, a dramatic error that significantly boosts value, especially if the date and mint mark remain visible, with high-grade off-center strikes valued between $50 and $100 for typical examples, but a pristine, extreme off-center strike could push the coin's worth into the thousands. And then there's the possibility of a wrong planchette error, where the 1980 D quarter was struck on a planchette intended for another denomination, like a nickel or even a $50, a mistake that's extraordinarily rare due to the strict quality controls at the Denver Mint, but when it occurs, it creates a coin with an unusual weight, size, or composition, such as a quarter struck on a 5-cent planchette, weighing around 5 grams instead of the standard 5.67 grams, or on a silver planchette left over from pre-1965 production, which would weigh closer to 6.3 grams, and these wrong planchette errors are highly sought after, with values ranging from a few hundred to several $1,000s depending on the severity and condition, but the $386 million price tag hints at an unprecedented era, perhaps a quarter struck on a gold or platinum planchette, an almost mythical mistake that would elevate the coin's intrinsic and collectible value to astronomical levels, though no documented evidence exists of such an era for the 1980 D quarter, making this valuation speculative yet plausible in the realm of ultra-rare numismatic anomalies. And another contributing factor could be a missing clad layer error, where one side of the coin lacks its copper-nickel coating, exposing the pure copper core, creating a striking two-tone effect that collectors find mesmerizing, with partial missing clad errors, where about 50% of the outer layer is absent, being rarer and more valuable than fully missing clad layers, fetching prices between $75 and $200 for typical examples. but a gem-quality specimen with a perfectly preserved missing clad layer could command much higher sums, and the coin's condition plays a critical role, as the professional coin grading service grades coins on a 70-point scale, with uncirculated coins graded MS60 or higher commanding premiums, and for the 1980 D quarter, an MS67 example is valued at $340, while the single known MS67 Plus coin is worth $3,600, but a hypothetical MS68 or higher with multiple errors could push the value into the millions, especially if certified by a reputable agency like PCGS or NGC, and the rarity of such high-grade coins is amplified by the fact that only one 1980 D quarter has been graded above MS67 by PCGS, making pristine examples with errors exceptionally scarce. And another intriguing error is the filled D mint mark, where grease or debris clogged the die, resulting in a blurred or partially filled mint mark, a minor but collectible variation valued at $20 to $50 in gem condition, and when combined with other errors, this could further enhance the coin's appeal, as collectors often seek coins with multiple imperfections, creating a perfect storm of rarity, and the historical context of 1980 adds to the coin's allure, as it was the first year the Philadelphia Mint used a P mint mark, a change that sparked interest in quarters from all mints, including Denver, and while the 1980 D quarter's high mintage of 518,327,487 suggests abundance, the survival rate of high-grade error-laden coins is low, with PCGS estimating around 181 million still exist, but only a tiny fraction in mint state, and the economic conditions of the early 1980s, marked by recession and inflation, meant many quarters were heavily circulated, reducing the pool of pristine examples, and the San Francisco Mint's production of 3.5 million proof quarters in 1980, while not directly related to the Denver Mint's output, highlights the contrast between collector-focused proof coins and circulation strikes, as proof quarters are valued at around $36 in PR70 condition, but errors in proof coins, like a double die reverse, could also command high premiums, though less relevant to the 1980 DS valuation, and the possibility of a unique error combination, such as a double die obverse, off-center strike, and missing clad layer on a wrong planchet, could create a one-of-a-kind coin, potentially explaining the $386 million valuation, as such a coin would be a numismatic unicorn, unparalleled in rarity and desirability, and the coin's design, featuring John Flanagan's portrait of George Washington on the obverse and an eagle with arrows and an olive branch on the reverse, adds historical significance, as the Washington quarter was originally intended as a one-year commemorative coin for Washington's bicentennial in 1932 but became a permanent fixture, with the 1980 D quarter's copper-nickel-clad composition, 75% copper, 25% nickel over a pure copper core, making it affordable for circulation but unremarkable unless marred by errors, and the market for error coins is driven by collectors' willingness to pay premiums for rarity, with auction records showing significant sales for other error coins, like a 1983 P quarter graded MS67 selling for $1,925, suggesting that a 1980 D quarter with multiple dramatic errors could far exceed typical valuations, and the role of professional grading cannot be overstated, as coins graded by PCGS or NGC carry a seal of authenticity that boosts buyer confidence, with graded coins often fetching 10 to 100 times more than ungraded ones, and the $386 million figure, while extraordinary, could reflect a speculative bubble in the numismatic market, where ultra-rare coins attract wealthy collectors and investors, and the story of the 1980 D quarter's value is also tied to its discoverability, as many era coins are still in circulation, waiting to be found in pocket change or old collections, and tools like the Coin ID Scan app can help collectors identify errors by analyzing photos, though professional grading remains the gold standard, and the coin's metal composition, while not silver, unlike pre-1965 quarters, can still contribute to value if struck on a rare planchet, and the melt value of a standard 1980 D quarter is only about $0.0586, underscoring that its numismatic value far outweighs its intrinsic worth, and the allure of era coins lies in their unpredictability, as minting mistakes are accidents, not intentional designs, making each era a unique snapshot of a moment when the mint's precision failed. And for the 1980 D quarter, the combination of a double die obverse, off-center strike, missing clad layer, and wrong planchette could create a coin so rare that it commands a price akin to famous era coins like the 1966 quarter struck on a silver planchette, valued over $1 million, and the speculative $386 million valuation might also reflect a unique provenance, such as a coin from a notable collection or one tied to a historical event, though no specific record confirms this for the 1980 D quarter, and the numismatic community thrives on stories of such finds, with collectors sharing tales of discovering valuable eras in everyday transactions, and the 1980 D quarter's high mintage paradoxically makes its rare eras even more valuable, as finding a needle in a haystack of 518 million coins is a feat, and the coin's condition, errors, and grading combine to create a perfect storm of value, with the potential for a single coin to rewrite the record books, and the market for such coins is dynamic, with prices fluctuating based on auction results, collector demand, and new discoveries. And while the $386 million figure may seem fantastical, it's not impossible in a market where a 1966 quarter fetched over $1 million, and the 1980 D quarter's errors, from double dies to wrong planchets, make it a candidate for such an extraordinary valuation, and collectors should always verify coins with professional grading services to ensure authenticity, as counterfeit errors or post-mint damage can deceive the untrained eye, and the 1980 D quarter's story is a testament to the thrill of coin collecting, where a single coin, overlooked by millions, could hold the key to a fortune, waiting to be discovered by a keen-eyed collector. Next, picture yourself sifting through pocket change and finding a 1992 D Washington quarter, a coin that appears unremarkable at first glance but carries a staggering value of $345 million, not due to its nominal 25-cent denomination or its copper-nickel-clad composition, but because of a rare combination of minting errors and mistakes that elevate it to the pinnacle of numismatic treasures, sought after by collectors who are captivated by the anomalies that transform ordinary coins into extraordinary rarities. And the story of this quarter begins at the Denver Mint, where in 1992, over 450 million quarters were struck, a high mintage that typically suggests a common coin with minimal collectible value. Yet within this vast production, a few coins emerged with errors so rare and compelling that they command astronomical prices, starting with the possibility of a double die obverse error, a highly prized mistake where the die used to strike the coin was misaligned during their hubbing process, resulting in a noticeable doubling of elements like the date, 1992, their D mint mark, and the motto, "In God We Trust," creating a ghostly, overlapping effect that collectors cherish for its visual distinctiveness and scarcity. With a 1992 D double die obverse, if catalogued as a significant variety like the FS 101 by the professional coin grading service, potentially fetching thousands in high grades, but the $345 million valuation suggests a coin with multiple, compounding errors, such as a double die paired with an off-center strike, where the design is misaligned by 40% to 60%, leaving a crescent of blank planchette on one side, a dramatic error that significantly increases value, especially if the date and mint mark remain fully visible, with off-center strikes of this magnitude valued between $100 and $500 for typical examples, but a pristine, high-grade specimen could push into the tens of thousands. And another critical error contributing to this coin's value could be a wrong planchette error, where the 1992 D quarter was struck on a planchette intended for a different denomination, such as a nickel, dime, or even a $50, an exceptionally rare mistake given the Denver Mint's stringent quality controls, but when it occurs, it results in a coin with an unusual weight, size, or composition. For instance, A quarter struck on a nickel planchet would weigh approximately 5 grams instead of the standard 5.67 grams, or on a silver planchet left over from pre-1965 production, weighing closer to 6.3 grams, and such errors are highly coveted, with values ranging from $500 to $10,000 depending on the planchet and condition, but the $345 million price tag hints at an even rarer scenario, perhaps a quarter struck on an experimental or precious metal planchet, like gold or platinum, an almost legendary era that would combine intrinsic material value with numismatic rarity, though no documented 1992 D quarter has been confirmed with such an era, making this valuation speculative yet plausible in the realm of ultra-rare coins. And another contributing factor could be a missing clad layer era, where one side of the coin lacks its copper-nickel outer layer, exposing the pure copper core, creating a striking two-tone appearance that collectors find mesmerizing, with partial missing clad errors, where 30% to 50% of the clad layer is absent, being rarer and more valuable than fully missing layers, typically valued between $100 and $300. But a gem-quality example with a perfectly preserved missing clad layer could command significantly more, and the coin's condition is paramount, as coins graded by PCGS or NGC on the 70-point Sheldon scale, particularly those in uncirculated grades of MS65 or higher, fetch substantial premiums, with a standard 1992 D quarter in MS67 valued at around $50, but an MS68 or higher with multiple errors could escalate into the millions, especially if it's one of the few known examples in such pristine condition, as PCGS records indicate only a handful of 1992 D quarters have achieved grades above MS67, making era coins in top grades exceptionally scarce. And another error to consider is the filled D mint mark, where grease or debris clogged the die, resulting in a blurred or partially filled mint mark, a minor but collectible variation valued at $30 to $75 in high grades. And when combined with other errors like a double die or off-center strike, this defect enhances the coin's uniqueness, as collectors prize coins with multiple imperfections, and the historical context of 1992 adds intrigue, as it marked the 60th anniversary of the Washington Quarter's introduction in 1932, originally designed by John Flanagan as a commemorative coin for George Washington's bicentennial, but its continued use and high mintage in 1992 make era coins stand out against the backdrop of common circulation strikes and the economic climate of the early 1990s, with stable inflation and widespread coin circulation, meant many 1992 D quarters were heavily used, reducing the survival rate of high-grade examples. And while the San Francisco Mint produced proof quarters in 1992, valued at around $15 in PR70 condition, the Denver Mint's circulation strikes are where the era coins emerge, and a unique combination of errors, such as a double die obverse, off-center strike, missing clad layer, and wrong planchet, could create a coin so rare it justifies the $345 million valuation. As such a coin would be a numismatic anomaly, unparalleled in its rarity and appeal, and the Washington Quarter's design, with George Washington's portrait on the obverse and an eagle clutching arrows and an olive branch on the reverse, carries historical weight, but its copper-nickel clad composition, 75% copper, 25% nickel over a copper core, offers little intrinsic value unless struck on a rare planchet, and the market for era coins is driven by collector demand, with auction records showing significant sales for other era quarters, like a 1999 Delaware State quarter with a major era fetching over $10,000, suggesting that a 1992 D quarter with multiple dramatic errors could far surpass typical valuations, and professional grading by PCGS or NGC is crucial, as certified coins command 10 to 100 times the value of ungraded ones, ensuring authenticity and boosting buyer confidence. And the $345 million figure, while extraordinary, could reflect a speculative surge in the numismatic market, where ultra-rare coins attract wealthy collectors and investors, and the story of the 1992 D-quarter's value is also tied to its potential discovery in circulation, as many era coins remain hidden in pocket change or old collections, and tools like coin scanning apps can aid collectors in identifying errors, though professional grading remains essential, and the coin's melt value, at roughly 6 cents for a standard clad quarter, underscores that its numismatic value dwarfs its intrinsic worth, and the allure of era coins lies in their unpredictability. As minting mistakes are unintentional, each era a unique snapshot of a moment when the mint's precision faltered, and for the 1992 D-quarter, a combination of a double die, off-center strike, missing clad layer, and wrong planchet could create a coin so rare it rivals famous era coins like the 1965 silver quarter, valued at over $7,000 in high grades, and the $345 million valuation might also reflect a unique provenance, such as a coin from a notable collection or linked to a significant event, though no specific record confirms this for the 1992 D-quarter, and the numismatic community thrives on stories of such finds, with collectors sharing tales of discovering valuable errors in everyday transactions, and the 1992 D-quarter's high mintage of 450,565,113 paradoxically makes its rare errors even more valuable, as finding a flawless era coin among millions is a monumental challenge, and the coin's condition, errors, and grading combine to create a perfect storm of value, with the potential to set new auction records, and the market for such coins is dynamic, with prices driven by collector enthusiasm, auction results, and new discoveries. And while the $345 million figure may seem fantastical, it's not impossible in a market where rare era coins have fetched millions, and collectors must verify errors with professional grading to avoid counterfeits or post-mint damage. And the 1992 D-quarter's story is a testament to the thrill of coin collecting, where a single, unassuming coin could hold the key to a fortune, waiting to be uncovered by a discerning collector. Next, let's dive into the fascinating world of numismatics and explore why a seemingly ordinary 1977 quarter dollar could potentially be valued at an astonishing $395 million, a figure that captures the imagination of coin collectors and casual enthusiasts alike, driven by rare errors and mistakes that transform this everyday coin into a numismatic treasure of unparalleled worth. The 1977 Washington quarter, part of a series first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, is a coin steeped in history, featuring the iconic portrait of the first U.S. president on the obverse, designed by sculptor John Flanagan, and a heraldic eagle on the reverse, clutching arrows and olive branches, symbolizing strength and peace. While most 1977 quarters are common, with over 468 million struck at the Philadelphia Mint, 256 million at the Denver Mint, and 2.6 million proof coins at the San Francisco Mint, certain rare errors and varieties elevate specific examples to extraordinary value, making them some of the most sought-after coins in modern collecting. The primary allure of a 1977 quarter worth $395 million lies in its potential to possess one or more dramatic minting errors, which are manufacturing defects that occurred during the coin production process, turning an ordinary 25-cent piece into a collector's holy grail. One of the most valuable errors associated with the 1977 quarter is the wrong planchet error, particularly the 1977 D-quarter struck on a 40% silver planchet, a remnant from the 1976 bicentennial quarters produced to celebrate America's 200th anniversary. These bicentennial quarters were struck in both clad and silver compositions, with the silver planchets containing 40% silver and 60% copper, weighing approximately 6.25 grams compared to the standard copper-nickel clad quarters' 5.67 grams. In 1977, the U.S. Mint reverted to producing only copper-nickel clad quarters, but a rare mistake at the Denver Mint resulted in a small number of 1,977 quarters being struck on leftover silver planchets. These coins, identifiable by their brighter, more lustrous appearance and heavier weight, are exceptionally rare, with one example graded EF40 details by the Numismatic Guarantee Company, NGC, selling for $4,935 at a 2016 Heritage Auction sale, hinting at the potential for even higher values in pristine condition. If a 1977 D silver planchette quarter were discovered in an uncirculated, gem quality MS68 or higher grade, with perfect preservation and no signs of wear, its value could skyrocket, potentially approaching the millions due to its rarity and historical significance, as collectors prize such transitional eras for their uniqueness and connection to the bicentennial era. Another significant era that could contribute to the $395 million valuation is the 1977 D quarter struck on a 1-cent planchette, a mistake where the quarter's design was impressed onto a blank intended for a Lincoln penny. This error results in a coin that is smaller, lighter, weighing approximately 3.11 grams for a copper planchette, and often copper-colored, with parts of the design potentially missing or distorted due to the mismatched planchette size. Such errors are visually striking and highly collectible, as they represent a dramatic failure in the minting process. A 1977 D quarter struck on a 1-cent planchette, graded by NGC, was valued at $1,100 at auction, but a pristine example with no wear and exceptional eye appeal could fetch significantly more, especially if it captures the attention of wealthy collectors bidding at high-profile auctions. The rarity of this era, combined with the intrigue of a quarter masquerading as a penny, makes it a prime candidate for driving the coin's value into the stratosphere, particularly if multiple collectors compete for a single, flawless specimen. Additionally, the 1977 no-mint mark quarter struck on a 5-cent planchette, another wrong planchette era, adds to the coin's potential value. This error occurs when the quarter's design is struck onto a nickel planchette, resulting in a coin weighing around 5 grams and often exhibiting a different color or incomplete strike due to the smaller planchette. These coins, primarily from the Philadelphia Mint, which typically emits mint marks, are valued at approximately $55 in circulated condition, but uncirculated examples with sharp details could command much higher prices, potentially reaching thousands or more in top grades like MS66 or MS67. The scarcity of such errors, coupled with the growing demand for unique minting mistakes, contributes to the speculative possibility of a $395 million valuation, especially if a coin combines multiple desirable traits, such as exceptional condition and a dramatic era. Another era that enhances the 1977 quarter's value is the broad strike era, where the coin is struck without the retaining collar, causing the metal to spread beyond its intended diameter, resulting in a wider, thinner coin with no reeded edge. A 1977 no-mint mark quarter with a broad strike era, graded MS66, was valued at $65, but a higher grade example or one with additional anomalies could fetch significantly more. The visual appeal of a broad strike, with its oversized, flattened appearance, makes it a favorite among era collectors, and a pristine example could push the coin's value into the hundreds or thousands, especially if paired with other errors. Off-center strikes, where the coin's design is misaligned by 5% to 50% or more, also add significant value, particularly when the date remains visible, as this increases desirability. An off-center 1977 quarter with 30% or more of the design missing could be worth $25 to $100 or more, depending on the degree of misalignment and the coin's condition. While no major double-die errors are widely documented for 1977 quarters, minor double dies, where the design appears slightly doubled due to a misaligned die, can still fetch $25 to $50 or more, with the potential for higher values if a more pronounced double die is discovered. The combination of these errors, wrong planchette, broad strike, off-center, or double die, on a single 1977 quarter could create a perfect storm of rarity, driving its value to unprecedented levels, potentially justifying the $395 million figure in a heated auction environment where collectors and investors vie for a one-of-a-kind piece. Beyond specific errors, the condition of the 1977 quarter plays a critical role in its value. Most 1977 quarters in circulated condition are worth only their face value of 25 cents, but uncirculated coins, particularly those graded MS67 or higher by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, are significantly more valuable. For example, a 1977 no-mint mark quarter graded MS68, the highest known grade for this coin, is valued at approximately $10,000 by PCGS, reflecting its rarity, as only one such coin has been certified. Similarly, a 1977 D quarter in MS67 plus condition is valued at around $1,400, while a 1977 S proof quarter in perfect PR70 deep cameo condition is worth about $42 to $150. If a 1977 quarter with a rare error were discovered in MS68 or higher, or as a flawless proof with a dramatic error, its value could escalate exponentially, especially if it garners attention as a unique specimen. The historical context of the 1977 quarter also adds to its allure. Following the 1976 bicentennial quarters, which featured a special reverse design with a colonial drummer boy, the 1977 quarter marked a return to the standard heraldic eagle design, making any transitional eras tied to the bicentennial production particularly significant. The U.S. Mint's shift from silver to copper-nickel clad compositions in 1965, prompted by rising silver prices and coin hoarding, set the stage for these eras, as leftover silver planches from 1976 occasionally found their way into 1977 production. This historical anomaly enhances the narrative appeal of era coins, as they represent a tangible link to a pivotal moment in U.S. coinage history. The $395 million valuation, while speculative, could be driven by a combination of factors: the coin's condition, the rarity and severity of its errors, and the fervor of the collecting market. High-profile coin sales, such as the 1933 Double Eagle, which sold for $18.9 million in 2021, demonstrate that exceptional coins can command astronomical prices when they capture the imagination of wealthy collectors and investors. A 1977 quarter with multiple errors, say, a silver planchette strike combined with an off-center broad strike in gem uncirculated condition, could become a numismatic legend, especially if it's the only known example. The coin's provenance, or its documented history of ownership, could further elevate its value, as a well-documented story of discovery, e.g., found in pocket change or an old bank roll, adds romance and intrigue. Moreover, the growing popularity of era coins, fueled by online platforms like eBay and social media discussions among collectors, has increased demand for such rarities, potentially pushing prices to dizzying heights in a competitive auction setting. To identify a potentially valuable 1977 quarter, collectors should look for specific characteristics. Check the coin's weight. A standard clad quarter weighs 5.67 grams, while a silver planchette era weighs closer to 6.25 grams. Examine the color and luster. Silver planchette eras have a brighter, more reflective surface compared to the grayish tone of copper-nickel clad coins. Inspect the edges for the absence of a copper core, which is visible as a reddish band on clad quarters but absent on silver eras. For broad strike errors, look for a wider than normal diameter and smooth, unreeded edges. Off-center strikes are easy to spot, with part of the design missing, while double dies require close inspection of lettering or numbers for slight doubling.